Ang programa ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Ito ay ang bagong food supplement na gawa sa mga piling gulay at prutas at dumaan sa isang masusing proseso para mapangalagaan ang inyong kalusugan. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay dinisenyo para sa kalusugan ng ating tiyan, tulungan ang pagkuha ng sapat na nutrisyon at ang pagpaparabas sa ating sistema ng mga nakakasirang toxins. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may iba't ibang disenyo at sangkap base sa inyong pangangailangan. Mula sa boost para sa mga bata, fortitude, boost to great, miracle fruit, peridicare, at ang pinakabago, liver fruit. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may pagmamalaki ng produktong gawa sa kanila. Ito ay mabibili sa Dashen, Geta Road sa Sebastian Phase 3, Dinogana, Tarlac City. At para sa mga kalanayong lugar, mabibili din ang produkto ng Equilibrium Probiotics sa Lazada. Ito ay eksklusibong gawa ni Ginang Manu Reyes Murray. Ano pang hinihintay nyo, mga kasangga? Alam, bilihan. MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Matid sa inyo ni Kuya Eric. Magandang umaga po mga kasangga. Friday, it's August 18, no? August 18, 2023. Nasa dulo na naman po tayo ng linggo. At ito naman po, makakasama niyo naman ang Kuya Dong sa kalahating oras ng pagbabalita sa ating MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Ang inyong daily dose of news. Good morning to our favorite baker, Richard Taya. Thank you for joining me this morning. At sa lahat ng ating mga manonood sa TikTok Live, sa Instagram Live, at sa ating YouTube Live din. So kasabay na po nito yung ating Facebook Live streaming. At buti naman po at maayos na uli ang ating internet connection. Kaya tuloy-tuloy na naman po yung ating live streaming activities. Unfortunately, nung Miyerkules, hindi po tayo nakapag-live. No? Dalawang dahilan po. Una, yung ating internet connection. Pangalawa, namatayan po tayo. So, yung ating uncle, namayapa na. Si Tito Artemio Tarocanlas, para po doon sa mga kamag-anak na hindi pa po nakakaalam, yung pong aming uncle, yung pong younger brother ng aming mother, namayapa na po nung Lunes. So, kinalulupot po yung pagbabalita sa inyo. So, ang lamay po ginaganap sa San Vicente, sa Cadena de Amor Street po, doon sa chapel doon. At ang interment po bukas, araw ng Sabado, alas 8 po ng umaga. Po, so, bago po natin ituloy ang pagbabalita ngayong umagang to, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal namin lumikha, maraming salamat sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob ninyo sa amin. Sa mapayapang gabing lumipas at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob mo pa sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ng kasamaan at manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at sa pagsunod sa inyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawain namin, inaalay namin sa iyong anak na si Jesus, na aming mahal na Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. At simulan na po natin ang ating pagbabalita ngayong araw na to. Here is a summary of the top stories for today. Time check is 5:45 a.m. And the top news, top stories are brought to us by Equilibrium Probiotic. Please scan the QR code to see the health benefits. President Marcos backs review of rice tariffication law. Most Pinoys back U.S.-Philippine military cooperation, according to Octopol. Comelec awaits request for special election to replace Teves. And for our global top story, silent threat, Bahrain to build walls against rising sea. And to our regional stories, Makati Taguig turf war, DepEd takes over 14 MBO schools. Mayon logs highest sulfur dioxide emission. Court junks raps filed versus ex-broadcaster Sonsa. And finally, in sports, Ayala thwarts Aussie Fall makes it to W25 Aldershot quarterfinals. And here's the top story for today. President Marcos backs review of rice tariffication law, report by Bella Carriazo to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. President Marcos backs the review of the rice tariffication law, RTL or Republic Act 11203, to return the powers of the National Food Authority amid the issue on rice supply and spike in prices, a ranking official of the Department of Agriculture said yesterday. In an interview with the Star, Agriculture Assistant Secretary and Deputy Spokesman Rex Estuperes said that Marcos first mentioned his support for review of the RTL during the meeting with stakeholders at Malacanang, organized by the Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries, or PCAF. President Marcos said, review what needs to be reviewed, necessary to empower the NFA. Its previous functions should be returned. You cannot totally remove its powers, Estuperes said. The RTL removes the various regulatory powers of the NFA, from import licensing to warehouse inspection. During the dialogue with PCAF, the President cited the need to review the RTL and look again at the functions of the NFA. If there is a need to amend its mandate, like for example, if you cannot buy at 19 peso per kilo of palay, what should be done? Will it increase the buying price? Will the government provide subsidies? Estuperes said. Estoperes added that Agriculture Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban would also recommend to Marcos to prioritize the amendments of the RTL. The rice was not included in the priority measures despite being a staple food, and it is a political commodity, Estoperes said. According to Estoperes, prior to the implementation of the RTL, the required inventory of rice was at 90 days, 60 days for the private sector and 30 days inventory for the NFA. Under the RTL, the private sector needs at least 81 days inventory and 9 days stocks for NFA. The current remaining stock of the NFA is only tagged at 46,000 metric tons, good for at least 1.3 days. At the same time, Estepera said that based on the dialogue with rice importers, they want to include the amendment of the RTL, the sanction of exporters who will not honor the contracts. He said the recommendation of the importers will be submitted to Panganiban, who will then submit the feedback to Malacanang. On the other hand, Estopera said importers committed to sell 100,000 5-kilo sacks of rice at 38 peso per kilo in depressed areas like Baseco to help the poor amid the spike in retail prices of the staple food. Based on the monitoring of the DA, the retail price of the local regular milled rice is sold as high as 50 pesos per kilo, local well-milled rice 52 pesos per kilo, local premium rice at 56 pesos per kilo, and local special rice at 60 pesos per kilo, while imported rice is sold as high as 65 pesos per kilo. 500 peso million farmers loan. State-run Development Bank of the Philippines has lent a 500 million peso loan to boost rice production in Albay and contribute to the country's food security. DBP has extended the credit assistance to farmer cooperatives in Albay province to advance sustainable and efficient farming practices in the province. The financing will support the Digital Rice Clustered Farming or DCRF project under the bank's expanded rice credit assistance as part of the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. The project combines advanced automation, precision farming techniques, and data analytics to optimize resource utilization and increase small farmers' annual yield by up to 30%. DBP President and CEO Michael De Jesus noted that innovative farming initiatives would elevate the local agriculture sector while empowering Filipino farmers amid an ever-changing agricultural landscape. The DCRF will consolidate individual farming holdings into larger farms, which would result in lower production costs and improve farmers' income by leveraging economies of scale. It would also utilize digital platforms like satellite imagery, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. These are seen to boost rice production by 20,000 metric tons annually by with 2,000 hectares of land, with upside production by up to 70,000 metric tons for a cluster farm size of 5,000 hectares. The project will be piloted in Albay with an initial 5 farmer cooperatives to participate in the cluster farm project. Anti-poor, insensitive. Rice watchdog group Bantay Bigas on Thursday slammed the proposal of Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual to consider other food like potatoes, corn, and sweet potatoes as an alternative to rice. It was proposed for the sake of commenting. There was no study even done. Potatoes and sweet potatoes are more expensive as alternatives to rice, Bantay Bigas spokesperson Kate Estavillo said. The proposal of Secretary Pascual is anti-poor and insensitive. Estabilio said that aside from retail prices of rice, other basic commodities are also increasing, adding that farmers are not spared, as despite the spike in price of palay, they always suffer losses. According to Estabilio, the government should instead impose price control to stop the increasing retail prices of the grains. She added that the DA should instead provide subsidies to the farmers to strengthen local production. Government procurement. By raising the pallet procurement price of the NFA from 19 pesos to 22 pesos, farmers can be convinced to sell to government instead of local pallet traders. Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura President Rosendo Sor told the Star. Definitely, farmers would sell their produce to the higher buying price of commercial pallet traders rather than to much lower buying price of the NFA that translated to a lower volume of stockpiled and husk price of the government, so pointed out. During a congressional meeting on July 16, So said that Agriculture Undersecretary Mercedita Sombillo has already agreed to raise the 19 peso per kilo government support price of the NFA to 22 peso per kilo. Raising the buying price of NFA to 22 peso per kilo with an incentive of up to 3 peso per kilo would encourage farmers to sell their produce to the grains agency, so noted. At 25 peso per kilo of palay, this would translate to a 42 to 44 peso per kilo of rice in the local market. Federation of Free Farmers National Manager Raul Montemayor said that while farmers cannot immediately provide the needed supply of corn, potatoes, and sweet potatoes, it would encourage them to plant crops. While it is not immediate, as we are a rice-eating country, the market for these crops is still limited. But once the demand increases, I am sure a lot of farmers will plant to supply the needed demand, Montemayor added. These are very good options for farmers. Instead, our focus is the importation of rice. We should look for other crops as substitute for rice. With additional reports from Luis Maureen Simeon and Ramon Efren Lazaro. Next on our top stories, most Pinoys back U.S.-Philippine military cooperation, according to Octopol. Report by John Vic Mateo to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A majority of Filipinos support strengthening and expanding military cooperation between the Philippines and the United States, a survey conducted by Octa Research said. Results of the July 2022 to 26 survey released on August 17 showed that 54% of the respondents support stronger military cooperation between the two countries to address the territorial disputes in the West Philippine Sea. This is composed of 14% who have very favorable view of the matter and 40% who said they were somewhat favorable. Only 11% were not favorable of expanding military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines to address issues in the West Philippine Sea, with the remaining 32% saying they were not sure if they were in favor or not. The same survey asked the respondents if they support strengthening and expanding military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines to deal with external threats to the country in general. Some 58% said they support it, composed of 15% who said they were very favorable and 43% who were somewhat favorable. Some 12% were either very or somewhat unfavorable, while 20% were ambivalent. Octa earlier released the results of a survey on the top priority measures that Filipinos think that Marcos administration should do to handle conflicts related to the West Philippine Sea. 70% said the government should assert the Philippines' territorial rights through diplomacy and other peaceful methods, while 65% said it should be asserted through military action. Some 61% said the government should modernize the Philippine military's capability to protect the country's territories. The total exceeded 100% because the respondents were allowed to select up to three measures. Octa's Tugon ng Masa survey had 1,200 adult respondents and a margin of error of plus minus 3%. Next on our top story, Comelec awaits request for special election to replace Teves. Report by Mayan J. Malin to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Special polls may be needed to find a replacement for expelled Negros Oriental 3rd District Rep Arnolfo Teves Jr., according to the Commission on Elections. Comelec Chairman George Garcia said the poll body is ready to hold special elections if ordered by the House of Representatives. If we will be directed to hold a special election in the district, we will comply with haste, Garcia said yesterday. He said the call for special polls is an exclusive discretion of the House of Representatives. Congress will have to declare a vacancy and then direct us to hold a special election, the Comelec chief explained. He said the 3rd District of Negros Oriental must be represented in Congress immediately after the expulsion of Teves. He also stressed that Teves is not, at this time, perpetually disqualified from seeking public office again. Wala po siya conviction by final judgment, Garcia said, adding that Teves' removal from office is administrative in nature. But he said there is not enough time for Comelec to hold a special poll simultaneously with the October 30 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. The 265 members of the House of Representatives earlier voted to expel Teves, as recommended by its Committee on Ethics. For disorderly behavior, Teves, who is being linked to the March 4 killing of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Digamo, has not returned to the country since filing a medical leave in February. At a press briefing, House Secretary General Reginald Velasco said they have already served Teves through his office a notice of his expulsion as House of Representative, as House member. We are still awaiting the House leadership on who will be the caretaker of the district of Mr. Teves. In the past, usually the neighboring district of the congressman concerned is the one appointed as caretaker. So in Negros Oriental, there are 3 congressmen there, he pointed out. Asked about the status of Teves staff, the official said they are coterminous with the congressman. At the end of the term of a congressman, they will have to vacate the room, leave the office unless they are rehired by the caretaker, he explained. Velasco added they have already notified the Comelec of the vacancy. He admitted it might be difficult to conduct special elections for Teves district as the poll body is now busy preparing for the barangay and SK polls. The whole year of 2024, Comelec will be busy for the 2025 elections. It seems Comelec no longer has the time and resources to prepare for special elections, but we don't want to preempt Comelec.
We have to wait, he added. Asked whether Tevez could still run for congressman in the future, Velasco is not certain. This is unprecedented. There is no precedence whether he will still be eligible to run. The final word, if he will qualify, will come from Kamala, he said. He said it's not established yet if expulsion comes with perpetual disqualification. If we look at current rules of the House, there is none. It's just the expulsion is one of the disciplinary actions, he added. The National People's Coalition, meanwhile, is studying whether to kick out Tevez following his expulsion from the House of Representatives. That's something that we have to discuss also amongst ourselves because there is a local party involved in Negros. How do they feel about it and all of this? Said NPC Chair and Rizal Rep Michael John Duwabe, with additional reports from Sheila Crisostomo. Moving on to our global top story, silent threat, Bahrain to build walls against rising sea. Report by Hashem Oseran of Agence France Press to the Philippine Star. Manama, Bahrain. Already battling extreme heat, Bahrain is scrambling to ward off another environmental threat. Rising seas that could swallow parts of its coast, the island nation's oil and environment minister told AFP. By next year, the tiny Gulf state will begin building its coastal defenses against sea levels that have begun advancing by widening beaches, constructing taller seawalls, and elevating land. Bahrain is vulnerable. Mohammed bin Mubarak bin Daina, Bahrain's oil and environment minister and a special envoy for climate affairs, said in an interview. The main threat is a silent threat, which is the sea level rise, he said at his office in capital Manama. According to official estimates, an extreme rise of 5 meters or 16.4 feet could swamp most of the country, including its international airport. Even a rise of zero point 0.5 to 2 meters could submerge 5 to 18% of Bahrain's total area, according to Sama Al Janaid, an assistant professor at the Arabian Gulf University in Manama. Bahrain is the only island nation among the resource-rich countries lining the Gulf. Most of its population and major facilities are located in low-lying coastal areas less than 5 meters above the water. Other islands around the world are also threatened by rising seas as global warming melts ice sheets and glaciers. Ironically, Bahrain is a producer of the oil whose pollutants have triggered the climate crisis. Rock wall. Bahraini authorities have already recorded sea level rising between 1.6 millimeters to 3.4 millimeters every year since 1976, Bin Dina said. But by 2050, sea levels could rise by at least zero point 0.5 meters, according to the minister, citing the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Some experts view the estimate as conservative. Rising seas aggravate flooding, threaten coastlines, and could pollute Bahrain's already scarce groundwater reserves with salty water. That's why one of Bahrain's top priorities is the sea level rise, Bin Dina said. Either we make the beaches wider or a rock wall for certain areas, or reclaim lands before the shore. It is part of a detailed plan that will be completed in under 10 years and funded by the government, according to the minister. Ranked by the University of Notre Dame's Global Adaptation Initiative as one of the most climate vulnerable countries among Arab states in the Gulf, Bahrain must also contend with hazardous temperatures in one of the hottest regions on Earth. Extreme temperatures due to accelerated climate change could make parts of the Gulf unlivable by the end of the century, according to experts. Bahrain is already feeling the heat. This month, it has twice broken its record for energy consumption as temperatures topped 44 degrees Celsius or 111.2 degrees Fahrenheit, sending air conditioners into overdrive. Dual role. In all previous years, the electricity has not consumed the amount of megawatts as this year, so the temperatures are increasing, Bindina said. To do its part to combat climate change, Bahrain, a small-scale oil producer, is planning to reduce emissions by 30% by 2035 and scale up renewable energy to meet 10% of its needs over the same period. It is also looking to double its areas covered by greenery and quadruple the amount of mangroves, which absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere over the next 12 years. Bindina said he sees no contradiction in his dual role as Minister of both Oil and Environment, a conflation that is common among the hydrocarbon-rich Gulf states. Kuwait's Environment Authority falls under the Oil Ministry, and the United Arab Emirates has chosen Sultan Al Jaber, who heads state oil giant ADNOC, as president of the UN's upcoming COP28 climate talks in Dubai. Having one person looking at both oil and the environment at the same time shows how serious Bahrain is about combating climate change, Bin Dina argued. The minister can enforce all environmental regulations over the oil industry, he said, dismissing the inverse possibility that hydrocarbon interests could trump climate concerns. Moving on to our regional top stories. Makati Taguig Turf War. DepEd takes over 14 EMBO schools. Report by John Vic Mateo to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The Department of Education has assumed authority over 14 public schools affected by the territorial dispute between the local governments of Makati and Taguig. In a department order dated August 16, Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte said that the DepEd would directly supervise the management of the enlisted men's barrios or EMBO schools pending a transition plan. Duterte noted that the affected schools are under DepEd and supervising these institutions is in the pursuit of protecting the best interests and welfare of our learners, teachers, and non-teaching personnel. Relative to the Supreme Court's final and executory decision in the case titled Municipality of Makati versus Municipality of Taguig, the department is cognizant of the increasing tension present in the schools affected by the aforementioned ruling, thereby causing uncertainty as to the peaceful and orderly reopening of classes on August 29, the DepEd order read. Duterte said the DepEd is mandated to promote every Filipino's right to accessible, equitable, and quality basic education. Consistent with this mandate, the DepEd must provide a safe and enabling environment for learners, teachers, and personnel, she stressed. The DepEd ordered the creation of a transition committee that would prepare the turnover of the schools to the local government of Taguig. During the transition period, all activities to be conducted within the premises and of and or in relation to the subject public schools, including those from the cities of Makati and Taguig, should require prior approval from the Office of the DepEd Secretary, the order read. Following the SC ruling, the DepEd National Capital Region issued a memorandum replacing or placing the EMBO schools under the supervision of the Schools Division Office or Taguig Pateros. The Taguig government has assumed jurisdiction over the schools, prompting Makati to insist that a writ of execution is needed before the decision could be implemented. Taguig insisted yesterday that it does not need a writ of execution to exercise its jurisdiction over the 10 disputed Embo barangays. The Philippine National Police should ensure the strict implementation of the directive, Duterte said. The affected schools are the Makati Science High School, Comembo Elementary School, Rizal Elementary School, Pembo Elementary School, Benigno Inoy S. Aquino High School, Tibagan High School, Fort Bonifacio Elementary School, Fort Bonifacio High School, Pitogo Elementary School, Pitogo High School, Sembo Elementary School, East Rembo Elementary School, West Rembo Elementary School, and South Sembo Elementary School. Binay welcomes the pet move. Makati Mayor Abby Binay welcomed the decision to have Duterte take over the supervision of the schools. This will greatly ease the worries and concerns of our students, parents, and teachers, Binay said in a statement. We are one with Vice President Sara in her goal. Binay said Makati looks forward to working wholeheartedly with the transition team. Makati is willing to provide free uniforms, shoes, and other school supplies over 30,000 students affected by the turf war, with additional reports from Dafne Galvez. Moving on to our next regional update, Mayon logs highest sulfur dioxide emission will be reported by Romina Cabrera to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A record high volcanic sulfur dioxide emission has been recorded in Mayon volcano since it was placed under alert level 3 in June. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, said 4,756 tons of sulfur dioxide emission were recorded on Wednesday. PHIVOLCS noted that only 868 tons were recorded on Monday and 1,113 tons on Tuesday. Paul Alanis, PHIVOLCS resident volcanologist at the Lignon Hill Observatory in Legazpi City, said massive degassing means that magma is being actively pushed to the surface. PHIVOLCS said slow effusion of lava continued to feed the Bonga or southeastern, Niisi south, and Basud eastern gullies in the past 24 hours. Lava flow has reached 1.1 to 3.4 kilometers from the equator, while debris reached 4 kilometers. 70 volcanic earthquakes, including 3 tremor events that lasted for 1 to 25 minutes, were reported aside from 123 rockfall events and a pyroclastic density current. This fluctuating but still above the baseline values of abnormal parameters are telling us that there is no indication yet that the overall restive condition of Mayon is waning, Alanis told the Star. He denied reports that PHIVOLCS is considering lowering Mayon's alert level. These reports did not come from us. We don't see yet any indication of Mayon's abnormal condition now lowering, Alani said. He clarified that Mayon's chance of proceeding to an explosive eruption is slim because of the absence of enough energy and pressure from the prevailing abnormal parameters. PHIVOLCS said Mayon remains under alert level 3, adding that entry into the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone is prohibited, with additional reports from Seth de Matera. Good morning, Bing Ramos. Thanks for joining. Good morning, sister. Gising na ba si Brother Odi? And completing our regional update, court junks raps filed versus ex-broadcaster Sonsa. Report by Mark Ernest Belleza to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A Quezon City court dismissed yesterday the illegal recruitment case filed against former broadcaster Jay Sonsa. According to Bureau of Jail Management and Penology spokesman Jerex Bustinera, the complaints lodged against Sonsa were dismissed by the Quezon City Regional Trial Court Branch 100 due to the complainant's failure to appear in the hearings. Despite the dismissal of the case, Bustinera said Sonsa is still being held at the Quezon City Jail in Payatas due to other criminal charges filed against the former broadcaster. Sonsa is facing 11 counts of estafa and a libel case before the Quezon City courts. Moving on to sports, Ayala thwarts Osifo makes it to W25 Aldershot quarterfinals. Report by Ralph Edwin Villanueva to the Philstar. Manila, Philippines. Alex Ayala's quest for another title in Great Britain is alive after the Filipino tennis ace defeated Australia's Talia Gibson 4-6, 6-4, 6-4 in the W25 Aldershot tourney Thursday night, Manila time. Ayala had a 5-3 lead in the third set and was ahead 40-15 after Gibson's return did not go over. Gibson, however, scored a service ace as she cut the lead 40-30. But the Australian's tie attempt came short as an error led to her defeat 6-4. Ayala looked gassed at the start of the game, dropping her first set since winning the W25 Roehampton over the weekend. With Gibson leading in the first set 5-4, leading with 40-0 game, Ayala had a service ace to try and salvage the set. But Ayala's return went straight to the net as Gibson took the first set of the match. A visibly upset Ayala stormed back in the second set. With Ayala clinging to a 5-4 lead in the second set, Gibson tied the game at 40. This took some time as the two traded deuces. Ayala took the set after almost 10 deuces as the Australian had an error and Ayala had a service ace to take the set 6-4. The 18-year-old Filipina tenniser is now in the quarterfinals of the tournament. Up next for the Filipina is either American Jenna De Falco or local bet Alice Gillian. And that completes our top stories for today, August 18, 2023, Friday. And here again is a summary of our top stories. President Marcos backs review of rice tariffication law. Most Pinoys back U.S.-Philippine military cooperation, Octopol. COMELEC awaits request for special election to replace Tevez. Silent threat, Bahrain to build walls against rising sea. Makati Taguig turf war, DepEd takes over 14 EMBO schools. Mayon logs highest sulfur dioxide emission. Court junks raps filed versus ex-broadcaster Sonsa. And finally, in sports, Ayala thwarts Osifo makes it to W25 Aldershot quarterfinals. At dyan na po nagtatapos yung ating pagbabalita ngayong araw na to. Maraming salamat po sa mga nag-join sa aking live streaming sa Facebook. Shout out to 00B. Thanks for joining. And to all those who watch me in TikTok Live, thank you very much. Those who joined me via Instagram Live, thank you. And of course, those who are also in YouTube, thank you very much. Unfortunately, tomorrow, Saturday, we will not be airing our Magkasangga sa Buhay regular live stream since it is the interment of my uncle. Bukas na po yung libing ng aming uncle and I have a duty to perform as a nephew to be there. So we will be seeing each other again on our next broadcast on Monday and next week, Wednesday, for our Agri-Talakayan. And of course, we will be proceeding with Magkasangga sa Buhay next weekend. Both will be starting off with a new season. Agri-Talakayan has started off with its season 2, while Magkasangga sa Buhay will be starting off with its season 7. Season 7 na po tayo sa ating Magkasangga sa Buhay. So, maraming salamat po sa patuloy na pagsuporta sa aming programa at sana po wag po kayong manawa na sumuporta sa amin at manood sa aming mga programa. And we will try to make better contents for you, improve the way we deliver our service. Okay po, maraming salamat at again, magandang umaga po sa kanilang lahat. God bless.
Nakalaglag ng 100, oh. Tulit na. Joseph, sayang. Sayang ang pera. Tagal mo kayang 100 yan.